Welcome to the Like a DOS podcast, where Ronnie Doss shares insights regarding life, leadership, and personal development. For more of our resources, visit ronniedoss.com. Now, let's join the podcast.
Hey guys, it's Ronnie Doss. We're going to record this podcast as we are doing a Facebook Live. And so on the Like a DOS podcast today, in this episode, I want to talk about how motivation is not enough. Now, years ago, there used to be people that came out and they were great speakers. They were legends in the motivation arena. You had Jim Rohn, you had Zig Ziglar, Stephen Covey, Brian Tracy, Les Brown, people that came out that were great motivational speakers. But, now there's so many different people that are out there talking about different things, about motivation, how to stay inspired, what it takes to be successful. Maybe they've sold a business and they've got a little bit of money and now they're dumping it into marketing and they're becoming an influencer. They're becoming a person that we would say we should respect or listen to because they've had some success, but the success that they've had may not necessarily have to do with the personal development arena. Just because you're good in finances doesn't mean that you're good with people. Some people sell a business, a real estate holding, they make some money, and now they've got lots of money to dump into ads saying that they're an expert in some area. And that could be true in some cases, but I think when it comes to personal development, I think there's a lot more that we need than just motivation. And so I've listed a few things that I want to address in this podcast today and on this Facebook Live that I think can help you to get better at living your life and living it well, and then having success be a byproduct of the life that you're living well. I think success in any area is a byproduct of doing certain things really well, and many times we don't know what those things are. And so I wanted to list just a few things that have helped me to do what I'm doing and do it better, and to enjoy my life, have a good quality of life, and to grow my business, to scale my business, and to do what we're doing. And I'm passionate about what I'm doing, as many of you know. So let me give you a few things that I think we all need. Not just motivation. I want to give you a few things that I typed out here that we need. The first thing you've got to have if you want to create success in any area is what I call introspection. Introspection. Now, this is where you're willing to look in the mirror at yourself and identify things that you know personally you can do better in your life. Now, the mirror only tells you half the story. Like how you look on the outside, that's only half of it. But there's a lot that goes on the inside also, as far as how you think, how you feel, what your impulses are, what drives you, what motivates you, what doesn't motivate you, what frustrates you, and what makes you happy. These are things that you can't see on the surface that the mirror doesn't tell you. But you have to have some introspection. You've got to be willing to look in the mirror to start to get a clue on some things that you can make adjustments to. Like some people don't want to look in the mirror. They don't want to have any introspection. They want to live in a sense as if ignorance is bliss. But as one mentor used to say, ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is poverty. Ignorance is lack. Ignorance is broken relationships. Ignorance is poor health. Like these are the things that happen to us when we aren't willing to look directly at what may be going on for us and make sure that we're making any adjustment that we can. And so that part to me is important, introspection. Now, let me tell you about introspection and why it can be very difficult. The reason it can be difficult is because if you ponder things long enough, you can go deep into your head trying to be critical or critique every thought that you have and what's going on. I can be guilty of that sometimes. I'm a deep thinker. I read lots of different insights. I love getting wisdom from people that have information that I know I don't have, that have had exposure to things that I may not ever have. This is the benefit of learning. But I can tell you that as you learn and your capacity expands and your view expands of the world, you really can start to be a critic or critique old beliefs that you had. Now, just because you grew up in some area and somebody told you what truth was, that doesn't necessarily make that truth. You see, everybody has a truth, but the truth is the overall. And I believe for us, the truth is the thing that serves us in being our best in whatever it is that we are going to do. That is the truth. Otherwise, it's just an a truth that we might adopt from somebody else who had an inspired thought years ago, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, from our parents or our grandparents, hundreds of years ago. Somebody wrote out what the truth is, and it may have just been a truth for that time. And so introspection is where we're willing to look inside and say, hey, wait a minute, is the story or the narrative that I am telling myself, does that necessarily mean, just because I'm saying it to myself, does that mean it is the truth? Because chances are it's not. And so if you won't have any introspection and be willing to ask yourself, like, how do I talk to myself? And like, what do I say is possible for me? Like, what's possible for me? Because if you don't ever question that, like if you don't ever question what you think is possible for you, then you've adopted a truth from your past, from a memory that you had a long time ago that you made up with limited information that you had at that time. And now you're living what you would say is the truth. And the truth of it is most of the time, it's just not true. Like some people say, well, I just don't have the education, so there's no way I can make this happen. Let me give you a little insight here. I've been able to train some of the top companies in the world. I've been able to go to NASA, like train people at NASA. They're pretty smart people. I didn't finish college. The reason I was able to do that is because I've taken whatever it is that I do very seriously, and I dive into it and I give everything that I have to it. Everything to it. So when I talk, I speak with passion. I speak with an authority, not because I know it all, but the one thing that I do know is that if I work on me and do self-development and self-education, if I do that, then I gain insights that other people don't have. Then I know I can bring something valuable to the table, regardless of whether it's NASA or American Express or some other big company. It doesn't matter. I know I can bring something good to the game. And you can too. You see, you make up these stories about who you are, and it's basically because you don't want to get hurt. This is why we make up stories. Like when you're a kid and you get your feelings hurt and somebody does something rude to you, your brain feels that energy, feels that emotion, and deals with that chemical cocktail that gets fired off when we get rejected. It deals with that feeling, and your brain starts going, hey, let's look for the cause in our life and try to avoid that. And so since I got rejected by trying out for a team, then I may not try out for a team ever again, or at least dial myself down and pretend like I don't want to be a part of a team, or I don't want to be in a relationship. Maybe I'll just decide to be single the rest of my life and tell myself that that's how I want to be, when actually what I really want is connection with another human being, but I just don't want to get hurt, so I'm going to pretend like I don't want that. My mentor, when I worked for Mr. Clemmer years ago before he passed away, he used to say that many people pretended like they didn't want things anymore simply because they didn't want to get hurt. They didn't want to deal with what it felt like to try for something and fail. But let me tell you something. Every day when I get up, I'm trying something new. I'm adding something new to me. Not because I want to be a speaker and that I want some social acceptance. That has nothing to do with why I do what I do now. In the beginning, it was neat. I liked seeing people that were in front of the room, standing on a platform, speaking to thousands of people. I thought, man, that's really cool. But you know what it became? I matured into someone that said, you know what? This ain't about me speaking. This is about me becoming something better than I've been. And that means that I'll get up every day and I'll dig in a little bit more than where I dug in before, and I'll ask myself some tough questions, and I'll hold myself accountable to a new standard, and I'm not going to buy the old story that I used to have of me. Because that old story is something I made up way back then with limited information, which meant I had no understanding of what today could provide. And just so you know, today provides this amazing opportunity for you to do something like you've never done before. But you have to be the one to look inside, confront the story, and go, hey, that's all made up. It's just a truth. It's not the truth. The truth is the thing that sets you free. The truth is what liberates you. The truth is the thing that causes you to have some courage and take some massive action on something that you might have hesitated on. Just so you know, like this is the way it is for us. And so I think for all of us to get to the next level, the first thing we have to have is a little bit of introspection. Second thing you got to have is intentionality. Intentionality. Now, here's how I would say it. If you don't set the intention by design, the intentions for your life get set by default. Meaning, if I don't set the context, which means I am going to be bold, I am going to be courageous, I'm going to be a little bit crazy, I'm going to go for it even when nobody else supports me or pats me on the back and says, hey, you did it, you're awesome, we love you so much, right? Even when my videos aren't going viral and I don't have 10 million downloads on my podcasts yet, that I still do the work. You see, doing the work and being intentional, even when no one else is looking, is the thing that over time is cumulative and builds up momentum for us to be able to break through some of the barriers that we've created in our own mind. Like the barriers that you have of what your family's going to look like, where you're going to live, what kind of car you want to drive, what kind of clothes you want to wear, what your team's going to look like, how much income you're going to make. All these are things that you have made up in your mind. And you're so powerful with that once you make up something in your mind, you start looking for evidence to prove how right you are in every area. And so you can lay your head on your pillow at night thinking that you know who you are. And thinking you know who you are gives you this dopamine drip of certainty when in fact you feel good in that moment, but yet you know it's not the truth for you. Deep inside, if somebody comes along and motivates you or inspires you and says, hey, this is what's possible for you in that moment, whether it's a sermon at a church, whether it's a podcast you listen to, maybe it's a family member or a friend that reminds you of what's possible, maybe it's somebody that just wants to encourage you, a teacher, a mentor. In that moment, you feel it and you go, you know what, that could be true for me. There is another level. There is something beyond this limit that I've put on myself, and you know it in that moment. The problem is that the old programming that you have, the things that you've given yourself permission to think, consciously and unconsciously, start to take over your thinking and pull you back into the safety area that you've been in. And ultimately, what you wind up doing is being right about a very limited version of yourself. And so intentionality is huge. Like, I'm not going to waste my days for anybody now. I used to would waste my days. Somebody would say, hey, you want to go have some coffee? You want to go bowl? You want to go watch a movie? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I wasn't intentional about getting the things done that I know I needed to get done to make my future better. Because if you'll do what other people won't do right now, you can have stuff other people won't have and that they can't have. For me, I want to work towards things saying, you know what? I created something that other people aren't willing to create. I used the gifts and the talents and the abilities that I was given, and I worked them very hard. I wasn't entitled. I didn't think that somebody was just going to give me something. Yes, I appreciate it when people are helpful and people say, hey, we believe in you. We want to support what you're doing. I appreciate that, but I can't count on that. I can't. Entitlement's the fastest road to a mediocre life. And if you think that just because you showed up and you have a pretty smile on your face, right, and that you're happy that things are going to go well for you, that's not how it works. You'll get kicked in the teeth. Life will beat you to your knees. It happens to a lot of people that are very gifted, very talented. They got lots of gifts that they want to share with the world. But you know what? If you're not intentional, and you don't maximize every single day, giving it your best and getting a hold of your routine, life will start to weigh you down. It'll start to beat you down. And over time, you only get older. You don't really get better. And there's a big difference. I want to be better 10 years from now. Like, I like where I'm at right now. It's cool. I like where I live. It was a goal. I like my home. I like my cars. I like my life. It's good. But you know what? It ain't where I'm going to be 10 years from now. I'm not even close. My dad called me, it was a couple of days ago, and goes, man, we were FaceTiming. He goes, man, I love your house. I go, yeah, Dad, wait till you see the next one. And he laughed because he knows it's true. Like, I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping because I don't think I should have to, and you shouldn't have to either. But you got to be more than just being motivated every day, right? You got to be intentional. You got to look at your time and say, what am I going to get out of today? Like, what am I going to get out of today? Not just can I get through it, but what am I going to get from it? Am I going to be intentional? Am I going to let my old impulses and those little dialogues in my mind pull me off track and cause me to be distracted from the real work that I know I need to do? You see, when you do the real work, your life gets better. Like, the universe rewards you for the work. And many people won't do the work. They're just doing a work that somebody else tells them to do. And so now they've made their life about a career, clocking in, clocking out, getting a paycheck. But they're not making it about doing something bigger and serving the world. Now, there's nothing wrong with clocking in and clocking out and getting a paycheck, but we've got to be able to use those resources just like we use the gifts and the talents that we were given, what I believe by God, right? We have to use those well as well, and that takes intentionality. If not, you know what happens? We're just going through the motions, right? We're just going through the motions, and if you just go through the motions over time, here's what's going to happen. Your brain's going to get bored. And when your brain gets bored, your motivation goes away. And when you're really bored, your brain is checked out, you know, all you want to do is sit in front of the TV and let somebody else tell you what life is all about, while they sell you a product or some service, or tell you what you need to be doing, or who the winning team is and who the other people that are the losers. Like, you see that. Like you want to buy into something exciting on a TV screen because you haven't made your own life exciting in the day, in the moment, in the time that you've been given. Now, TV's okay for me. Don't get me wrong. It's fine. Like we've watched TV. My family, we have watched TV, but I despise TV. And the reason I despise TV is because if you look at the local news, it's always negative. It's everybody telling you how bad the world is because fear gets people's attention. And so if you're fearful watching the local news going, oh my God, it's so bad out there, it's going to suck you in and draw you in. And now your focus is on that TV screen. It's not on the focus of what you can do to make your day better and how you can improve yourself in the future. Man, I am talking, like, I don't know how long this Facebook Live is going to be. This is a great podcast, by the way. And it's called Like a Doss, by the way. You can go to iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, or Spotify and type in Ronnie Doss, and you can listen to like 30-some episodes that we have of these different podcasts. So what are we talking about? We're talking about intentionality. Next thing you have to have, you ready? Is what I was just kind of alluding to. You have to have some intensity. You have to have intensity. I think there's two things as it pertains to intensity. Number one, you got to work with intensity. You got to work with intensity. But you also have to be willing to rest with intensity as well. So you work hard with your career with intensity, but you spend time with your family with intensity as well, meaning you make that a real priority and you give your best to it. You see, some people are great at going to their job and working with their head down because it's easier to do that than to pay attention of the needs of your family and to be present with them and to slow your roll down enough to where you can get on the level of everybody else. And if that is, if you have kids that are 5 like I do, or 10, or whatever age they are, if they're teenagers, your spouse, wherever they are with their thinking, one of the most important things that you can do is to pull yourself out of that thinking all the time of business, 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 provide, 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 and learn to be present. And when you learn to be present, right, and you live with that intensity, that this is just as important as any sale I'm going to have, as any client that I'm going to find, as anything else that I'm going to do, when you make your family, when you absolutely make them what you're intense about, that you play with intensity, you rest with intensity, you lounge around with your family with intensity, that you take that time and you're very serious about that, over time, you'll create balance. And when you have balance, that's a very beautiful thing. But here's what I know about balance. You don't find balance. You create it. And the way you create balance in your life is to be intense about creating balance. You look at your life. You have that introspection. You go, wait a minute, this isn't working. The way we've been doing this, it's just not working. I don't think it's working well. It's not working well for the bottom line of our family. It's not working well for me as the CEO of YOU Incorporated, which is me. Like, this isn't working. So what do I need to make adjustments to and operate with an intensity making that so important? When you do that, it's pretty cool what happens, because you start finding that if you look for time during the day to invest into your family, into yourself, into your spiritual walk, invest into your reading, invest into your mind, invest into your relationship. Like, when you start looking for that, guess what? You find it. How do I know that? Because what you look for, you always find. You do. Like, if you're really intent on finding something, and for some people what they're intent on finding are justifications and rationalizations as to why they can't have a good marriage, as to why their marriage is boring, as to why their life's not working. Many people do this. How do I know that? I don't know. I just talk to tens of thousands of people every single year around the world and all sorts of trainings that I do. I don't know. How would I know? I don't know. I'm like a doctor, right? I get to see all the patients. I get to talk to the people. I know. I hear these stories. I'm not just making this stuff up. This is what people do. They decide that it's going to be easier to pretend like my life, it doesn't have really that much value, and there's not going to be a whole lot of passion in it. There's not going to be a whole lot of fun. We're not going to get to go anywhere new. That's what they believe, and so guess what? That's what they look for. And when they find it, they get to say, see, I'm right. I'm right about how my life's not working and I'm not passionate and how it can't be great. No, it can be great. You got to create it, though. You can have balance. You got to look for it, though. You got to find ways to make those adjustments. And so intensity is the next thing. Next one you got to have. Ready for this one? Here we go. Next thing you got to have is you got to have some intimacy. Now, hold up. With what? Well, let me tell you, you got to have intimacy with your family. You got to have intimacy with God. You have to intimacy with the universe. That's where you slow down from being so busy trying to get somewhere or have the next thing, that you are grateful and connected to what you have. Now, from being grateful and being not in a place of chasing everything down the way that many of us do, because we keep hearing from all the different sources of marketing sources of ad, print, internet, social media, sponsored ads, and all that telling us where we have to be. when you just decide you're going to be grateful for what you have right now, you can learn to be intimate with that, meaning you can have connection with it. Because if you don't see what the value is in something, you can't really have intimacy with it. If you can't see the value of life, you're not going to have an intimate connection with your life. You're not going to have an intimate value or an intimate connection with the universe. You're not going to think that it's valuable. But if you slow yourself down and go, hey, wait a minute, this is a priority. This is a priority. My prayer life, it's a priority. Spending time with my spouse, it's a priority. Going on date nights, it's a priority. Spending time with my kids on the playground, wrestling around in the living room, taking them out to dinner, showing them what it's like to go out date nights with my kids, like this is important, it's a priority. You see, when you develop intimacy with people that you care about, your friends, when you learn to listen and pick up on what's being said when it's not even being said because you've slowed yourself down enough to be present, when you develop that type of intimacy with your life, you realize that life is rich, like you're living it more from not just the surface of things, but you're actually feeling what's going on and what other people are experiencing. Some of us call it discernment. Like when I go to the front of a room and I'm speaking with a group of, let's say, 100 people, some people say, Ronnie, how'd you know that was going on for that person? And I'm like, I don't know. I can just feel it. Like I know it because I'm not all in my head caught up thinking about what it is I need to say. It's like I've developed a form of intimacy with myself to where I can feel certain things because I pay attention. Like I'm not in such a hurry all the time blowing through the day that I'm trying to get somewhere else, that I'm never anywhere, that I'm never present. Like when we develop intimacy, I'm telling you, we see that life is so much richer and I think we're healthier. We're healthier. Like when you know yourself, you're healthier. When you can call yourself on your old impulses and some of the old conversations that you have and some of the old memory stuff that comes up for you, that old residue, when you can call yourself on that and go, you know what, this ain't me now. Like when you develop that intimacy with yourself, knowing some of your old tendencies, but you're not going to allow that to be what runs you for the day, then you become powerful. Otherwise, your old memories, that old biological residue that you carry from who knows where it all came from, that runs your life. But when you can be liberated from that and develop a knowing about yourself to where you're believing for something different, and instead of reacting to the old impulses, you're now neutral and creating, that's where you become powerful. When you say today is the day I'm going to start to create, I'm going to stop reacting to all this old garbage. I'm going to start creating today because today is the day. And if I knew it was my last day, if I knew this was it and I stopped taking it for granted, you know what? I might do some things today that would make my life richer. I might develop a better relationship with myself so I could get better. Like that's what you do when you know you don't have tomorrow. Like this is part of it. That's a big thing, developing the intimacy, slowing down at night. I sit out back next to my hot tub looking up at the stars in the desert, and I pray a lot. I talk to God. I feel an intimacy with the universe that God created, and it's really powerful. It fills me up. Without it, I feel like I'm running on empty, and I don't think we need that. If you're running on empty, I'm telling you, over time, if you're running just on fumes, which some people do, some people are proud of, I just don't think you feel how awesome life really is. You don't experience the richness of it because you're just kind of striving and pushing to get through. Here's the last couple of things that I'm done. I didn't know we were going 23 minutes on this, but hey, maybe you got something out of it. I hope you did. You guys give me a little thumbs up if you got anything out of this. Hey, Peyton, how you doing? Last couple of things you need. Actually, I'm going to give you 3. To create a great life, more than just motivation, you have to have some interesting insight. Interesting insight. Now, what does that mean? Well, interesting insight is where you've learned something new that you didn't know before. And so here I am telling you that if you want to live a rich life, you're going to have to get some perspectives from some people that maybe know more than you know, right? Like I think it was John Maxwell that said, thinking that you can't learn something from everyone is naive. There is something that you can learn from anyone. And so gaining interesting insight might just mean you ask some questions to some people. Like, you know, what matters to you? Like what inspires you? Are there any good books that you're reading? Like, what do you watch that really gets you fired up for life, that causes you want to do what you do better? Like, what are you into? Like, asking people questions like that, interviewing people, you will find that everybody is an expert in some area. Not any one person knows everything. There's so many things that I don't know. Like, people ask me, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I am not the person to answer that question. The truth of it all is that, I don't know everything. Just like right now, Justin Ryder said, side note, what's the numbers in the background? So this, Justin, those numbers in the background show me how long, if I have it in front of me, and I'm facing that way when I'm creating videos, it shows me how long the videos have been and how much time I have left. We have a video program, all these video subscriptions that we have, and a lot of times we'll use that camera. Good question. See, you asked a question, you got a good answer. So interesting insight is where you're willing to dive in and learn some things, like reading autobiographies of people that were influencers, people that made a huge impact. I'm reading a book right now, and the book was talking about how like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, like when they started doing what it is that they became known for, like Rosa Parks not moving from her seat on the bus, and Martin Luther King with the civil rights movement, all of this, like in the beginning, Martin Luther King was like, I don't know that I can lead this. I don't know that I'm prepared. He was at seminary school and wanted to be a pastor of a church. He didn't know. He got voted unanimously to be the person that did that and took that on. But like there are going to be times in your life where opportunities are going to come and you need to be prepared for them. And one of the best ways I think that we can get prepared for something is to gain some interesting insight, to get some information that we don't have. And you can get that from books. Like I'm reading this book right now. I'm reading this book right now. This is one Addison gave me. It's a great book. I got like all of them are stacked right behind there on my desk. I love to read. And so with that, you need some interesting insight. Second thing you got to have, and then I'm going to give you the third thing and we'll be done. Next thing you have to have is you have to have a genuine interest in people. Now, the reason that I piggybacked off this one is because you can be interesting to other people, but I think something really powerful happens when you decide that you want to be interested in their success and how they're doing. Like, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I read so much, and I love having something to talk about because I get asked to go to a lot of places. I'll be going to Seattle next week to do a training. This week, we're doing a training. We've got participants coming in, I think, from 4 different states to be with me for the day at our Emerge event in Tempe, Arizona. Like, I have a lot of things to say, things I like to share, and I'm passionate about it. And so I like being an interesting person. I like being somebody that people can talk to, and I know a little bit about a lot of different things to help them as it pertains to personal development. But I don't let being interesting be the thing that keeps me from being interested in other people and how they're doing. And this is my own personal battle. This is me being fully transparent because I read so much and I'm always thinking about how to provide better and how to take our business and scale it and reach more people, help people to think differently on the planet because I think the planet's very broken. I think there's lots of people that are causing problems that they probably wouldn't cause if they had better information. And so some of those things drive me to help people with their own introspection like we talked about in the beginning. But I have to be interested in where people are at. And I am interested. I love people. Some people say people are crazy. Well, yeah, people are crazy. But there's some amazing people on this planet too. I've done trainings for participants in 11 different countries. I've been around the world. I've been on thousands of flights and thousands of airports or in hundreds of airports and all these different places. And when I meet people, I think, man, there's some awesome people in the world. And I can tell you that I learned great insight by being interested in other people when I'm sitting on a plane next to them and asking them questions about their life. Like being interested is something that I believe is such a great component to growing. Like when you sit with somebody and they start asking you questions like, about what you're into and how things are going for you, and then they keep asking questions, kind of dialing down to specifics, it's because they're interested in you. And, one of the things that I've heard is it's hard to treat people like a 10 if secretly on the inside you think they're a 1. And the more I work with people and the more I talk to people, the more I see that there are people that are 10s, that we're all 10s. We all have lots of insight and wisdom that other people just don't have. It's our unique experience. And when we can share some of the things that we've learned from our experiences, not just sharing our experience, because you can talk about you and talk about your story all the time, talk about your childhood. That's great for a bit, but what did you gain? What did you glean from going through the experiences that you've had? Because if you can learn to articulate those ideas and talk to people and draw those ideas out of other people, you'll find that everyone has an interesting journey. Like there are so many people that have done so many great things. I was just flying on the airplane beside a lady who's a champion horse trainer, and she was on a plane not long before our flight, flying to somewhere, I believe it was in the Middle East, not sure, to go bid on, I think it was a $14 million horse. Like, and this lady's trained horses her whole life, some of her clients, people she works with, and I just sat and listened. Her mother is either Ivy League school psychologist and professor, a doctor, and just unbelievable wisdom that I learned. I just sat and asked questions. Learning to be interested in other people may be one of the most valuable things that you'll ever do. Learning to ask questions and to move past the surface of most conversations of, how you doing? Oh, good. Okay, great. Let's talk about the weather, or let's talk about politics. All that stuff's easy. But like to really dig in a little bit and be interested on how well somebody's doing, and to be interested in how even you can help them, that's huge, right? Like wanting to know about someone, but then offering your services to be able to help any way that you can with what resources you have, or maybe the people that you know. That's one of the things that my mentor did really well. One of his questions he would always ask is, how can we help you? Is there anything that we can do to support you with where you're going and what you're doing? He was interested in other people. And so you need interesting insight, but you need to be interested. And then here's the last thing I'm going to leave you with today on this 30-minute podcast, Facebook Live that we're doing here. You have to be a little bit insane. I mean that. If you're going to create something that other people haven't created and go somewhere that not a lot of people have gotten to go and experience some really cool stuff, you're going to have to be a little bit crazy. Like, crazy is something beautiful about being a little bit crazy, right? Being willing to believe something that other people won't believe, or believe in a dream, believe in some vision. You got to be a little bit crazy. And we're all a little bit crazy on some level. Like, when you talk to people and you get to know them, you find out that there's the social media facade front thing, but then there's something behind the scenes with people that drives people to want to be better and to do better. And, most of the time, one of the things that drives people is just a little bit of craziness. A little bit of craziness believing that they can create awesome things. A little bit of craziness thinking that you can have an awesome relationship, that you can be passionate. It takes a little bit of crazy when the world is telling you right now how you need to behave and what you need to have. It takes a little bit of craziness to go, you know what? I don't think I want to do it the way that you're doing it. It takes a little bit of rebelliousness to take some of the old religion that people try to cram down your throat and say, you know what? I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to go straight to God. I'm going to learn by my own experience. I'm going to be crazy enough to go against the norm. That's going to be me. I'm going to be a little bit crazy. And in that craziness, in that little bit of insanity, and being willing to do it just a little different than maybe the way everybody else has done it, you start to see yourself in a different way. And you start to develop what I call self-respect. And when you do things consistently over time that other people aren't willing to do because maybe they're not crazy enough to do it, crazy enough to believe, crazy enough to have the faith, when you see yourself doing that over time, you develop a self-image where you start to believe something different about you. And I can tell you that what I've seen in my life is the more I've begun to believe in me and be willing to go for it, even when other people may not necessarily know how to endorse me or acknowledge me or tell me that I did great, or they may not even know the questions to ask. Like last week, I'll just tell you straight up, last week I put a proposal together for NASA. Again, this would be the fourth time that I've gone to work with NASA. And when I'm putting this proposal together, it's easy to go, oh, this isn't going to work. This is NASA. This ain't going to work, Ronnie. It's probably not going to work. It's easy to do that. Because the old thoughts come up like, oh, you can't, who are you to go train people, executive teams at NASA? Like, even though I've done it, that old voice still comes in. But then I go, wait a minute, I've done this before, and we can do it again. And you know what? We can do it better than we've ever done it before. That's a little bit of insanity. It's being willing to break out of some of your old sane thinking where you think you know everything. And I'm telling you that in my life has started to unfold in direct proportion to the willingness that I have had to think and believe for things that are different. Think and believe for things that are bigger and better. I want to create more resources. I want to create hundreds of millions of dollars. I do, so I can do things with those resources to help other people. I want to live in the biggest house on the hill. You know why? Because I want to do that for me. Because if I can keep my priorities right, that will be a byproduct of me pushing myself. It doesn't mean that that's my sole focus. I could care less about a house. It's like I don't really care about that. But there's a part of me that says, oh, I can have that if I want. It can be both. I'm thinking abundance. Why not? Why would I limit myself to saying, well, I got to stay down here? I can do whatever I choose to do, as crazy as I want to get, and I can create what I want. I'm starting to believe that. And the more you believe that, the more you will see that there's so many opportunities, so many resources, so many people, and you have so much gift and talent within you. You have so much capacity that if you'll be crazy enough to just put one foot in front of the other, moving towards something bigger and something greater than what other people might be settling for, you will start to see that this is your life and you can make it whatever it is that you want to make it. Are you going to deal with circumstances that suck? Yes. Sometimes there are going to be challenges you didn't expect to face. But even the challenge offers a gift to you to be able to dig in and do some work. Be crazy enough to not complain about the challenge, but yet be grateful for it. And say, if this challenge is in front of me, then there must be some gift within it that if I can unfold or unbox this gift, I can find something within it that's better than what most people will ever find in their life. You have probably found this to be true in your life, that when you go through the most challenging thing, that on the other side of it, it offered you something. It offered you a gift that you didn't already have. The problem produces the gift. It's a blessing. And so when you can face it like that and be crazy enough to not complain, but do the work to see how you can create solution, good things happen for you. And I think you deserve good stuff. I deserve good stuff. So I'm going to do the work. So hope you guys got something out of this today. This was awesome hanging with you. If you liked this at all, be willing to share it. Share it with somebody. You don't know where they're at or what they might be facing right now. I know this, that entrepreneurs are facing challenges, right? Like right now, I know that the holidays are coming up. Holidays represent a stressful time for people. Share this. If you listen to my podcast, Ronnie Doss, on iTunes, you can share that. Share that on your social media platforms for us. Our downloads are skyrocketing, and the feedback that we get are phenomenal. People are saying, you know what, I heard you say this, and it made such an impact for me. I'm changing the way I'm treating my team, treating my family. I'm changing the way I treat myself, and I'm showing up better because of some insight that you shared. And so this is about me just being a conveyor of information and wisdom that I've learned from other people, books that I've read, right, seminars I've done, trainings that I've sat through, trainings I've put on. Like, this is where I get this information. It's not like I just sit in bed and have this epiphany download of all these great insights. I don't. I was willing to learn from some great mentors that went before me, and I have had some great mentors, great people that I was willing to learn from. And so if you learned anything from this, or there's anything that I said that provoked something in you to want to keep pushing and keep digging and keep moving towards something that's better, then share it if you would. That means a lot to us, and you never know. So with that being said, hey, Carolyn, awesome, showing up better. That's good, showing up better. Also, I don't know if you guys can see it, but my book back there on the shelf, that's Dig. There it is. That's my newest book, Dig, and above it is my book. There it is, Leading Lions. You can get both of those on Amazon. They're great gifts for people, great insight in there, just from things that I've learned. And so thank you guys for hanging with me today for this Monday motivation, I guess that's what you wanted to call it. But also check out the podcast. And if you want to be crazy enough, I don't know that it's crazy, get you a ticket. Show up this week, Tempe, Arizona, for our Emerge event. It's one day with me. It's going to be phenomenal. We're going to take on everything from pain points in business, personal development, motivation. We're going to deal with some stuff relationally. We're going to confront some stuff and take some things on so that 2020 is our best year yet. You don't just get to wish for it. Wishing for it, that'll be, once you wish for something, it only takes like a week until the wishing goes away, the power of that. But when you set real intention and you get clear on what you want to create, and you put together a plan and you're accountable to that plan, over time, you can break through some barriers and some thresholds that maybe have been holding you back. And so that's what this Emerge event is about. It's about emerging from our old person, the old person we used to be renewing our mind and becoming something better. I think that's cool. Pretty exciting for 2020. Thank you guys again. iTunes, Like a DOS, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play. It's all on there. You guys are amazing, and share this if you enjoyed it. All right. God bless you guys. If I don't talk to you again, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. It's going to be an awesome year. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.